Hey everyone, thank you very much for attending today. My name is Sinead McCrowan and you are very welcome to episode 18 of In Conversation With. For anyone who is new here, we run In Conversation every Wednesday evening and we cover 2 DCU courses just as a way for prospective students to get some more insight into particular courses in DCU through either a student's perspective, maybe a recent graduate, or sometimes even a lecturer from that course. So today we have a slightly shorter episode. We're only covering one course today, which is the BA in Journalism. And I'm going to be welcoming Kinga into the call in just a moment's time, who is a final year journalism student in DCU. So just before we get started, I will draw your attention to the Q&A function that is kind of along your Zoom screen at the bottom. If you have any questions for Kinga as we go through, whether that is in relation to modules, the student experience, work opportunities once you leave the university, you can ask us through the Q&A function and we will let that guide our conversation. So please don't be shy. It's a great opportunity to get to ask a question directly to a student. So hopefully you can take advantage of that. So without further ado, I'm going to promote Kinga to a panelist, and that means you should be able to see her on screen. So let's see if this works. Hey Kinga, how are you?
I'm just trying to turn on the video.
That's okay, take your time.
It says cannot start because the host has stopped it. So I think maybe you need
Okay, let me see what I can do there. I wonder how I've made that happen. Okay, well, I'm going to make you co-host and see if you can share your screen there. Does that work?
Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic, thank you. Sorry, no, that was a problem on my end. I obviously had a button clicked, so I didn't realize. You'd think after 18 episodes we'd have the gist of it now, but listen, how are you keeping, Kinga? How are you?
Busy.
I'd say so.
But yeah, grand.
Absolutely. Well, you're very good for taking half an hour out of your day anyway to chat to us. We have a good couple of students online, so hopefully we get a couple of questions in about journalism. So, Kinga, what if we take it right back to maybe 6th year U? Did you know journalism at DCU was the one for you? Were you uncertain? How did you come across DCU in that way?
Oh yeah, no, I completely didn't know what I wanted to do. I was interested in so many topics, so many different courses that I was like, I don't know, what am I going to choose basically? And then I kind of narrowed it down to, I love talking, I'm always curious, I like asking questions. And then my guidance counselor was like, why don't you try journalism? I was like, oh no, no, I can't really write that well. I've never written an article or anything. She was like, it's, you'll go in and you'll start, it's fine. Like, as long as you're interested. And I was like, no, like I couldn't. And then as it kind of got closer to the CEO, I was like, okay, I'll just give it a try. And then I was thinking about doing a PLC also because I was so unsure. And, it is such a big decision in your life. And I think people need to hear that. It is a massive decision, and the pressure sometimes that you're put under, sometimes you just need to stop and kind of let yourself think and be like, okay, this is my decision. What do I want to do? If I'm not sure, it's not the end of the world. People are, coming out of 6th year really young. And so I decided I would do the PLC for a year and take some time out to really think, and decide that that's what I want to do. I didn't really want to rush into it, and I'm really glad now that I didn't. So I did journalism and digital media in Marino College of Further Education, which is in Dublin. And I loved it. We did, photography, which I later did in DCU. We did the basics, and just had a fun year, as well as kind of, my decision was then firm at the end that, yeah, actually I'm able to do it and I'm interested in it. So then I applied through the PLC to DCU, and I kind of chose, if I don't get into DCU, looking back, maybe that's not the great thing because you should have as many options as you can, but I was like, I want DCU, and if I don't get into DCU for journalism, I'll try communications because, DCU was the top for, media courses in Ireland. So I said, I want to kind of, it's where I want to go or nowhere. So set my mind to it and I got it and I was delighted. And I wouldn't say the PLC gave me like an advantage over people at all. I think we all kind of started from the bottom, which, is great. And that's kind of how it took me a year longer, but you know what, it was worth it in the end. And then in first year, I think I was just as nervous as everyone else.
Yeah.
And I just started day by day, really. And I'm here now. So
And here you are, almost finished. You probably can't believe it. Like you're 4 years, like
yeah,
including the one PLC,
exactly.
almost
And you know
coming
what?
to
It
an end.
flew. I think
Yeah.
people are like, oh, I don't want to do that extra year. It's going to be so, I'm going to be older when I go back. I'm 22 and I'm going to be graduating. You know, that's still so young.
Yeah. The
So
blink of an eye, it goes by.
yeah.
And I think that's such great advice for people who aren't certain. Because, most courses, especially if you come to DCU, you're going to be signing up for 3 or 4 years at least.
Mhm.
So you'd want to be, have a fair or firm idea that this is something that you want to do. And if you can access it through a PLC route, sure, try it that way if you're not sure. And as you said, a year might seem like a huge
Yeah.
thing in 6th year, but really, like, it doesn't make
Yeah.
a bit of difference. And as you said, everyone's kind of still on the same playing field when you come in. It
Mhm.
doesn't necessarily make you like better or worse.
Mhm.
Everyone learns
Exactly.
from going forward. So for students who are listening in today, who maybe are like yourself when you were in 6th year, going, okay, yeah, I'm curious, I like talking to people and writing and maybe photography and stuff like that. What does the journalism course entail, say, overall? And then we might go into like each year and how that's built up.
Mhm. So basically, it kind of has three structures. So first one is more of like the practical skills you get. So you do video, audio, writing, all that kind of stuff, editing, and then you would learn more about like ethics and institutions and context of journalism you'll be doing. So a bit more theory, but it's very kind of theory and practical, which I really liked. And then the third part is kind of, you learn about politics and society and thinking critically about what you're writing and objectivity and all that kind of stuff, which is really important. So that's the kind of broad um
Kind of
part
feel
of the
for it.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
it's split into three. And I've only had, I think, 2 exams in my 3 years, 2 or 3. And now I think it's changed to you have no exams. So it's all
Okay.
continuous assessment, which for me I love, because exams, I didn't find they were the best, especially
Yeah.
for journalism
Not
or
for
for some
everyone.
things,
Yeah.
yeah. So I really enjoyed that part of it as well. And then going into more detail, let's say in first year, you'd start off doing the basics. So obviously your reporting, how to interview, all that kind of stuff, how to write news, and what else? Ethics, kind of the basics you need to go on and do second year and do more in-depth and advanced writing, let's say. But then again, you have a mix of kind of radio and video, so it's not all just writing. Like I think in 6th year, when I was deciding, and what kind of put me off is the thought of me, it's just writing articles, giving them up. It's
Yeah.
writing more articles, and I was dreading that part, because I was like,
Yeah.
I love doing things like presenting radio. That'll be more of my thing rather than writing. But as I found, as I went, and as you learn more and get introduced to all the different types of journalism, I feel like I can do all now, which is great. And this is what you want in
You're
the end,
dead
to have as
right.
many skills
Yeah.
as you can. So that was kind of first year, I thought flew by. You get an introduction to journalism, really good, and you kind of start caring about it a bit more because you understand something more, and that's kind of what happens when you understand.
Builds up.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
more. Yeah. And then second year, it's really fun. I thought that was the year where I kind of started to do loads of stuff. So let's say you'd have more optional modules. So if you're really into the kind of practical side, video, radio, you'll have loads on that. So you can kind of work and build up your portfolio in those kind of areas. And then you also have, things like photojournalism or data journalism, news design, which is creating the layout on softwares of magazines, newspaper, which also gives you, great kind of thing for after college, that you have those skills and you can go into any area.
Yeah.
And then third year kind of slows down a little bit, and you have more options again. So let's say I did a climate change module, which I love because I'm really interested in, and that's kind of new that came in. And you get to choose again. You have investigative journalism, which is kind of a longer, you'd be doing, let's say we did that over 4 months. So it's initially just kind of finding out something that someone doesn't know about a subject yet. So let's say we got our story published there a few days ago in the journal. I'm doing that module, which is, you know, fantastic. Like, there's no better feeling than getting your first article published.
That's
It's
incredible. I mean, you haven't even
yeah,
left university and you've got an
exactly.
article out there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're delighted with that. And, you know, staff again help you with everything that you need. You know, they're kind of your mentors along the way. And then a big part is the intra and the thesis or project that you get to do. And so I'm doing that now. So it's in the last semester of third year. So you have an option to do, which is really important, I think, to say, is you get to do a written thesis, or you can do a project, which can be a podcast, a documentary, a series of features. I'm not missing anything. But so it shows you that, you know, people who are more into kind of writing and would want to do that kind of stuff can go off and do that. But if you're kind of more practical and you love that side, you can create a project that's showing all your skills you learned over the 2 to 3 years. So I'm doing a documentary personally. And then again, you know, I have an interest in lifestyle article writing, but I also have an interest in documentary. So that could maybe merge after college, that I'll be able to do lifestyle documentaries, which I want. So you can kind of choose the direction you want to go in. And then obviously you have your intro, which we have interviews now, from now until the end of April, I think. And, you know, that's an 8-week, kind of like a work experience placement that you get. And, you know, there's loads of, you know, you can get the Independent or Green News if you're into environmental issues, radio, you know, a girl got Matt Cooper show on Today FM. And so there's loads of kind of, you know, again, the writing or the practical, if you want in that intra placement. For example, I got Irish Country magazine, which is like a beauty, lifestyle, women's empowerment, empowering magazine. So yeah, I think, you know, I hope people kind of understand that there's really a mix and a variety of kind of subjects that you do in journalism, that it's not all just writing. Yes, it is important and it's the base. But you can really kind of, you know, if you're into sport, you can do podcasts on sport, you can, you know, write about sport. You can really focus in on what you're interested in. And if you don't know what you're interested in, don't worry, because I didn't. And you just kind of find along the way what you kind of gravitate towards. So yeah, that's the kind of course.
Extremely broad, and I'd say you're coming out with a huge amount of various skills that you can use, as you said, to go into whatever section. And I think the journalism course in DCU is doing a great job of kind of battling the misconception that journalism is just, as you said, writing in a newspaper. I mean, that was it 50 years ago, but oh my goodness, has it evolved since then? And you probably do stuff with online writing, and you even did modules in photography and everything like that. So really you can kind of carve your own path wherever you go. Just for anyone who's come in, this is Kinga, who studies journalism in DCU. If you do have any questions, just pop them in through the Q&A chat, but we'll plow on if there's nothing coming in. I think you're answering all the questions as they go, Kinga. So I know that you've covered it in terms of kind of the various spaces you can go into, but just for some kind of particular careers, because I know a lot of 6-year students do think of like jobs, like what job can I get from this? Can you talk a little bit about like the different sort of roles you could go into after doing this course, you know, depending on your interests?
Yeah. So basically it's so broad as well, because you get the basics in communication. When you think about it, communication is so important in everything, in business, in any media, you know, the skills that you learn and how to write clearly, how to speak clearly and concisely, how to fact check information, which is really important now with all the misinformation. You're able to go in and work in, you know, so many different areas because you get so many skills, as I said before. So let's say, you know, you could have the kind of obvious ones. You could be an editor, you could be content writer, work in publishing, obviously a journalist, presenter, researcher, and you know, you could research for, let's say, news stock. If you're into kind of like a more serious topic, you can start off as a researcher, work your way up to, you know, presenter in a couple of years, whatever. You could go into PR, which is public relations as well, more of it like the businessy side or marketing side. And you know, again, designing websites, editing audio content, packages, which would be interviews for radio stations. You could work for non-government organizations, helping out, create content, any kind of communication department as well. So it's really broad. It's not just looking for jobs, writing articles or doing, and you have to be realistic as well. You don't step into Newstalk and become a presenter from day one.
Yeah.
You use the experience you get in college and in your work placement and maybe internships you do along the way, kind of get your foot in the door. And then once that kind of happens, you work your way up in that organization and slowly, which I know I'm not patient, so it's hard. Like I just want to make documentaries and RT just when I come out. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And, you kind of have to be realistic.
Sure.
But definitely helps you get your foot in the door. And then once you do, networking is a really important part, and it can get you anywhere into any career, so any, keeping the contacts you meet, even during college now, we get guest speakers, follow up with them, look at people on Twitter, message them. If they're looking for help, ask, could I do something? Even if it's unpaid, maybe a week or two, social media, anything. It's about, being kind of willing to put yourself out there a lot of time.
You're dead right. In media particularly as well, it's a competitive industry, but I think you're doing everything right there. If you're keeping the connections, if you keep working and have that goal in mind, then you'll be fine. We do have a question that came in there, Kinga. I don't know if you can see it on your end, but someone just asked, hi Kinga, what is your favorite module? And that is something I was going to ask you, because you've mentioned so many cool ones. Do you have one favorite in particular, or maybe one that you didn't even think you'd be doing in college and then you loved it?
That's a really hard one. I definitely loved radio Newsroom. So we would be in the radio, and you'd usually be able to create your own group. So let's say I had me and my 5 friends from my course, we would do a radio show. So it would be like a drive time show if you listen to someone on like Newstalk at CFM, like that. So it was really focused on being organized and like deadline and really prepping before the show, which I love. Like I'm too organized for my own good, so it was something I felt like I was good at, so maybe I enjoyed because of that. But again, using the studio and DCU, we have a real professional looking studio, and sitting in there with your friends and just chatting. But and again, you're making a radio show and getting feedback from your lecturer. And I think it was just so fun. And sometimes we'd mess up, say the worst is when there's dead air where you're not talking on the radio. That's the one thing you're not allowed to do. And when you just get the giggles,
it's hard
sometimes, like it's fun as well. Especially I find I'm more practical, so I love them kind of video editing, and you'd have a lot of fun with your friends doing that. And sometimes you'd be like, Jesus, I don't know what I'm doing, and you just learn from each other as well. And the mics and the equipment, like I love all that. I just feel like it makes me feel like a real journalist, which is so funny. But I loved definitely radio and video. I thought it was really fun, so probably them too.
That's great. Thanks, Kinga. And again, if there's any other questions, please do let us know. We only have about 10 minutes or so left max. So if anyone does want to get some insider scoop on anything, Kinga will be happy to provide. So that is such a fantastic cover of the journalism course in DCU. But I'd imagine you have a good bit of time to get involved kind of outside of lecture hours as well. Have you been involved much in clubs and societies in DCU?
Yeah, so in second year, I kind of got into loads of stuff. So we have a college newspaper, the College View. So it's only run by students. So I kind of started off, right. I wish I started in first year, but I just had this mental block of, oh my God, I can't write still. Even though like you just should just do it and then you learn as you go. But so that was my first mistake. You should get involved in stuff as soon as you come into college. Just throw yourself in. You make mistakes. Oh well, you'll get better then. So I started writing lifestyle kind of news in second year for the college newspaper, and then I loved it so much and I was determined. I was like, I'm gonna be editor next year. I want to be lifestyle editor for the college newspaper. So I worked really hard. I really pitched my own stories for the section, and then I interviewed late in my second year, and then I got it. So I'm lifestyle editor for the paper now.
Amazing.
And then I also got involved in DCU Style. I'm really into sustainability and all that stuff. And I also had it's called Look. It's online magazine. I started writing for that as well, along with the College View lifestyle section. So I had like two kind of newspaper and magazines.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh sure, I might as well go for editor of that. Like if I don't get it, sure, look, I don't get it. And then I ended up getting that as well. So so I'm editor of that now, and it's like a lifestyle, beauty, kind of fashion online magazine. And then throughout, I really got involved in Media Production Society in second year as well. So we had our own show. Again, it was me and with the girls. So it was like the friendly kind of spill the tea. We just talk about just stuff in the news. But MPS has a professional radio studio as well. So I got to learn loads there and kind of practice in line with the radio module I had. And I just got involved in student ambassador thing as well, which was great, and got to meet loads of people. So that was kind of the main.
So busy. Busy. You could say busy, Kinga. Never mind, like all of that plus your assignments and everything else that you're doing in college. But I'm sure it's very important for courses in the School of Communications to get quite involved outside of hours and get that portfolio ready or that experience, because as you mentioned, like it's very important to have connections, to have kind of proof of the stuff that you've done. So now you have, the fact that you're editor of two separate magazines and papers, you have your article now published in the journal. Like all of this is really going to help to get a job once you finish. And for anyone who's interested in coming to DCU for journalism, best in Ireland for communication studies, and will really help you and set you up to get a career. It's not just come in, do a couple of lectures and leave. Like, as you said, there's a state-of-the-art radio studio, podcast studio, even television studio on campus that students like yourself can actually use the equipment, so that when you go out to say News Talk or Spin or RTE, that you're going, oh yeah, I've actually used this thing before.
Yeah, and our equipment is actually professional. It's the same as you get from radio studio. So you go in and they're impressed because you know how to use it. And it stands out to employers, especially in my intro interview. She was like, wow, what you're doing for your lifestyle section is not going to be much different than what you're going to be doing for us. And I was like, oh my God, like that seems like nothing what I'm doing, it's kind of natural, but then I'll go in and I'll have an idea.
Exactly.
So that's great. I definitely think
you have a lot of skills in your arsenal upon graduation. So again, for any last minute questions, do pop them in there, but I think you've covered everything as much as you can. A question I like to ask kind of at the end, and this can range from lectures or clubs and societies, but do you have a favorite memory from your time in DCU? Because I know you're coming up to the end of it now. Is there one moment in particular that sticks out to you?
Again, the kind of radio studio bands were funny. Like I always remember them. And then actually I loved open days, and for student ambassadors I thought they were just so fun, and I just met so many students that were like so excited to go into journalism, which made me excited. And then you talk to loads of staff, and I thought they were like one of the funnest days. It was hard work at the same time, running around, but I really loved the open days and getting to meet students. And definitely like getting the story published would be a highlight because of the work we put in. And a story can really change someone's life or change an outcome of something, and you kind of see it, so that was really special. So I'll remember that for a long time.
That's lovely. It's just always great to hear what people take away from their university experience, and quite often it is those extracurricular things or the funny moment that you had in the radio studio, as opposed to all the hours in the library, like studying and stuff. It's lovely to hear those stories. So I don't see any more questions coming in, so we might just finish off with one more question, Kinga. And again, you might think back to your 60-year self. Any advice for someone at the minute who is hoping to come to DCU and fingers crossed gets into journalism in first year? Any advice for them when they walk through those doors?
I'd say just take your time and take it a day at a time. I know you can get really overwhelmed, when you're thrown in. When you think back from going into first year from sixth class, it's the same kind of experience. You don't know anything, you don't know anyone. You're like, how am I going to do this? That was my thought. So just kind of back that, like, you've probably done this new thing before, and like it'll just come. Everyone's in the same situation, because I felt like I got a bit too stressed out, being like, I can't do this, overwhelmed for a few weeks. But really, it's just changed that. So just kind of embrace it and get involved and really make friends and talk to people, because they're going to kind of be your support system for the 2 years, especially in journalism. I'm on the phone to my friends nearly every day, just talking about something about the course. So I'd say, just try to kind of make friends early on, and kind of maybe make a group that you can support each other. So I'd say, I don't know if that answers the question.
I think it does. I think that there's definitely a common thread of it will all fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're struggling at the start, or you think you're not able, or you maybe haven't found that right group of friends or that right society, you will eventually.
Yeah.
It might not happen for a couple of weeks, in a couple of months. You might only discover a society in your third year that is like,
Mm-hmm.
the one that you wanted to be a part of all along, but it will work out. And there's a lot of supports available in DCU for people who are struggling. You're not just going to be left. The lecturers are really accommodating, and as I said, lots of supports there for those who need it. We are just finished up now at past. Kinga, thank you so much for your time, not only your time, but also your words of wisdom. And I think I'll be going back to do journalism in DCU. I mean, everyone who comes on these programs just like sells their course to me, and I'm like, oh, that also sounds good. Oh, that one sounds really good too. For anyone who is watching this back on record, you can email us at studenthelp@dcu.ie if you do have any queries, or maybe you want to ask Kinga something directly. Kinga, you're in Unibuddy at the minute, aren't you? Yeah, so we have a function on our website. If you just search dcu.ie/CAO, and there's a little box to chat to students, and you'd actually be able to chat to Kinga directly on Unibuddy if you do have any further questions. But that's everything from us this week. We will see you back next week. Actually, next week is St. Patrick's Day, so I don't think I'll see you then, but the week after we'll be back with another episode. But Kinga, thank you so much again. Best of luck with everything in your final year, CAs and exams, and best of luck to anyone who's listening, and see you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.